Oddities! Welcome back to another episode of Midnight Curiosities. I'm Curator Raquel.
And I'm Curator WarBeauty.
Coming at you live from inside the Pope's hat.
You want to know a weird fact about the Pope? Actually, it's not weird. It's a hot fact. A hot take.
Hot Pope facts coming at you live from Curator WarBeauty.
Hot Pope facts. So you guys know this current Pope is Pope Francis, right?
Okay.
And he's really... And have your thoughts about the Catholic Church and everything, because... I kind of feel bad for this guy. He is the figurehead of a massive, powerful Illuminati organization. He's the head of this massive, powerful church that's thousands of years old.
Sure.
And this particular pope has really been trying his best to get back to what I would say he likely considers the mission of God first.
Okay.
And that's the only way I can describe it. So this pope... Speaking of the Pope's hat, I swear this
that I'm just hiding in.
Yeah, I swear this has a circular come around here.
Okay.
So, he has actually started basically getting rid of all of the gold finery that the popes in the past have worn. And he did this really early on in his papacy. And he said that it's not important for Pope to wear gold Versace robes.
Sure.
Basically. And the fact that they're wearing, Gucci robes...
How does that sit with you?
That makes me so uncomfortable. The Pope is just rocking the hottest, latest Versace religious wear.
I think that's really good for Pope Francis. I think that he's right, and being the Pope is not about all of the finery and the shinies and the glamour of it. It's about being a religious figure.
Exactly. So that's actually his whole papacy has been about that. Has been about being a religious figure and restoring the Pope to its original purpose, despite the fact that I'm not sure that many popes have done that.
Sure.
So he's kind of forging territory.
Good for him.
For popes.
Good for him.
Exactly. So while you're inside his hat, you just pat his head. Just good
Here's
for him.
a hot Pope fact for you.
Oh.
One of my favorite YouTubers, Matt Pat from Game Theory, when he met the Pope, he gave him a video game copy of the game Undertale. Gave it to the Pope. I don't know if he played it or not, but that's what he decided to gift the Pope, is a copy of Undertale.
You know, there's so many rules that you have to follow when you meet the Pope. You can't wear certain colors unless you're a certain status in life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's so many crazy rules when you meet the Pope. It's it's a dream to meet the Pope. That would be so baller, but man, are there a lot of rules.
Hey, WarBeauty?
Yeah.
Why are we talking about the Pope?
Oh. That's an excellent question. So today is not an episode about the Pope. It is an episode about sacred people. And that is and the Pope you could consider a sacred person.
Sacred people. I did not know that was a title that you could achieve.
It is, so...
Oh. The more you know, I guess.
Chew on that.
Okay. I got you. So... That's a really general title of just a sacred person.
It is.
So, what do you mean, specifically, what is a sacred person?
Okay, so, sacred people, as you said, it's a really general just way of thinking about someone, but a sacred person is someone that holds spiritual or religious significance, and typically their name inspires feelings, it inspires actions, it inspires zealousy. There's so many things that a person could be considered sacred for, but really at the end of the day, what this all comes down to is opinion. Oh, hot take, what?
Oh, hot take.
That's gonna get me in so much trouble.
That's okay, I consider Britney Spears sacred.
Well, I mean, who's to say that she's not a sacred person, though? If you consider music your religion, if let's say you're not really a God-fearing religious person...
A lot of people do feel that way about music.
Well, exactly, because music is extraordinarily powerful. It evokes emotions, and it has literal scientific ability to screw with your mind.
I was joking about Britney Spears, by the way.
Or were you?
You'll never know.
You'll never know. So... music could be considered a religion. Therefore, your rock stars, your pop stars, your R&B and hip hop stars, your rap icons, those people could be considered sacred people in your life. I mean, there's literally no difference with the exception of public opinion. And again, it all comes down to a matter of perspective. And I'm about to say something I might regret. So please.
Oh boy, now I'm nervous.
Please bear with me. But at the end of the day, it comes down to perspective and opinion. And so there is nothing that separates the Pope from Kanye West.
I love this hot take. The hottest of takes. And I am here for it. I love it.
I know, Kanye West...
Catholics might disagree with you.
See, that's why I'm saying it's a really controversial take, but at the end of the day, what is the Pope to an atheist? He's a religious figure.
A guy with a cool hat that I'm sitting in.
Guy with a cool hat. But if that person was incredibly musical-oriented, and they did consider, say, music their religion...
Sure.
Why couldn't Kanye West be their Pope? I'm sure Kanye thinks he's their Pope.
Kanye definitely considers himself more powerful than the Pope.
I want that for him. I love that about him.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So, since it's a matter of opinion, there doesn't seem to be any sort of, like, qualifications that a person has to receive in order to be considered sacred. But I know that, obviously, sacred is a very loose term when you're talking about people.
Sure.
And this kind of harks back to our Sacred Places episode where, like, if you consider a place to be sacred, then it is for you. So if you consider a person to be sacred, they are for you. But I think kind of on a more massive scale, you have sacred people that everyone considers kind of sacred, such as, like, saints. Sure.
So let's talk about sainthood for a second, because that's going to be the one most people go to first. So I want you guys to know that there are saints in the definition of good and holy people. But if you're going to talk saints as in Catholic sainthood, which is what most people know and identify as saints.
Sure.
That is an actual very specific process that people have to go through to be what's called canonized.
Okay.
So sainthood is, in the Catholic meaning, is someone who's lived an exceptionally heroic, virtuous life. So, famous saints, Saint Joan of Arc.
Okay.
You have Saint Francis of Assisi. There's Saint Benedictus, and he is the one responsible for the exorcism cross. Yes.
Aren't there, like Saint Peter?
Saint Peter?
Okay.
Like
Saint John?
The OG saint.
Right.
Yeah, upon this rock I shall build my everything.
He's buried in the Vatican.
He is.
In tombs that are much, much, much older than our country.
Isn't that crazy?
It is absolutely buck wild. We need to visit. So, what else? Well, you mentioned the qualifications that it takes for a person to be a saint. What are those? What do I have to go through to be sainted?
Okay, so here's So you want to achieve sainthood. Follow this easy step-by-step guide, and you too could be canonized by the Catholic Church.
WarBeauty's how-to guide to become a saint.
It's not easy. So you have to live an exceptionally heroic and virtuous life.
According to who?
According by Catholic Church standards.
Okay.
So to be sainted, you have to be, quote-unquote, chosen by God. And again, who decides that? Because ultimately...
The Pope?
No, the Pope actually does not decide that. And that's, if you guys Google this, that's one of the first things that pops up is the Pope does not decide if someone is a saint.
Okay.
God decides if someone is a saint.
Of course.
The Catholic Church simply goes through, it's basically an admin process of canonizing them.
Okay.
So you can't even start to be considered for sainthood until about 5 years after your death.
Oh, interesting.
So that's like the earliest that you could even start to become a saint.
That's interesting because I don't know a whole lot about the Catholic Church. I hope that's not a surprise to anybody. But I've always considered, like, Dolly Parton to be a saint of a woman. Like, she is incredible. She does all this kind of, like, charity work. She does all kinds of programs to help people in need. And she spends all of her fame and wealth to help other people. And I've always considered that, like, really admirable for her. And I personally would consider her a saint, and I think that after she dies, she should be sainted, but I don't know where she stands with the Catholic Church.
I think that's the second biggest qualifier is your Catholicism.
Yeah.
Because, well, not all saints were Catholic per se, but they were at the same time. Because the ones that were not necessarily Catholic, you're not looking in modern day history. You're going back.
Right. And when you go that far back, Catholic Church rules all.
Right, but at one point there were like 3 popes.
Oh.
So,
really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they all excommunicated each other.
Good.
It's another hot pope fact.
Excellent. I love that.
Today with hot pope facts. So the further back you go, the kind of more muddy it gets on their relationship to Catholicism. But since the church has modernized and been streamlined, and now, we don't have 3 popes excommunicating one another, I don't see any reason why, starting 5 years after her death, why Dolly Parton couldn't be canonized.
I think she should be.
I mean, yeah, it really comes down to her relationship to the Catholic Church. I don't think she's Catholic.
I don't think she's Catholic, but I don't know.
I also don't know. I'm not an exceptionally Dolly Parton fan.
I'm not either, is the thing, but, like, every time I see her in the news, she's doing something wonderful, and I just really get behind that.
Have you ever been to Dolly World?
Yes.
I love it there.
I have been to Dollywood.
It's iconic.
It's Dollywood, I think.
Yeah, Dollywood.
I've been there.
It's nice.
Fun fact, I got kicked out.
Of Dollywood?
Yeah.
How do you get kicked out of Dollywood?
Okay, well, I didn't get kicked out of Dollywood specifically, but I was on a trip, on like a church mission trip, and we stopped by Dollywood on the way to Kentucky, and then I got kicked out of Kentucky and sent home from the mission trip because I went skinny dipping with the boys on the crew.
That's such an on-brand story for you. I got kicked out of Kentucky.
I did.
Yeah.
Strike one was when they found me in the boys' room. But, okay, this is not a joke, and this is how I'm going to end up dying one day, is the boys had candy in their room. And so you open the door and say, hey, come in, we have candy. And I'm there. Like, no hesitation.
Oh. How to lure curator Raquel into your van.
Like, literally.
In the event you're a serial killer.
There was nothing, like, improper about the situation at all, except I was in the boys' room, but just because they had candy.
Okay.
And then the next day we did all go skinny dipping. So maybe that was a little improper. I probably won't be sainted.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I definitely won't be sainted. I'm going to tell you right now.
What if they saint you just to spite you?
Joke's on them. I would love to be sainted. I hope they do that.
Okay, so you have your Catholic definition of sainthood. Is there a non-Catholic definition of what normal people would consider to be a saint?
If you're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of Catholic sainthood, then most people, when you hear the word saint, they equate it to really good or holy. Like Mother
Santa
Teresa.
Claus.
Santa Claus. Saint Nick.
Yes.
Who is a saint.
Well, yeah, he spent his whole life giving.
Hence, Saint Nick. Like, that's a dude. That's a real person.
Oh my god. Wow, okay. Okay, so list off some sacred people that you know of.
Well,
give me an idea. What is a sacred person? You said Joan of Arc. I get that. Mother Teresa.
Okay,
I get
those are like actual in
saints.
The real world
Sure.
Catholic saints. But you don't have to be Catholic. Now that's again what people in Western culture are going to associate heavily is that. But sacred people also span to all kinds of religion. So you could say the Dalai Lama is considered a sacred person.
Okay.
Dalai Lama, of course, not being that person's name.
Right, it's a title.
It is a sacred title. There have been sacred people all throughout history.
Like
Obviously,
Christ.
Jesus the Christ has been a sacred person. The Buddha is a sacred person. Muhammad.
Confucius.
No, so Confucius wouldn't be a sacred person. Confucius was a philosopher.
Okay.
Right. He was just an Eastern thought father.
I got you.
Muhammad is,
of course,
considered a sacred person. So people that are considered prophets, typically in their spheres, are considered sacred people.
So by that definition, cult leaders would be sacred people.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
So again,
Iconic.
Hot controversial take. What makes Charles Manson any different than the Pope to his followers.
Did you know, have you heard about Jared Leto's cult?
Jared Leto has a cult?
Jared Leto has a cult. Okay, pause the podcast. We're talking about this. No, not really.
Oh. Goes to pause podcast. No, don't actually pause the podcast.
Don't actually pause it. Everyone needs to hear this. Jared Leto bought an island, and he lives there with his little following or whatever, right?
Living the dream, okay.
Okay, except he openly admits that it is in fact a cult, where they have like this little worship sesh and worship Jared Leto, I guess, and then there's like a cool 30 Seconds to Mars concert, and it's like a whole thing, and they live there on the island. But my favorite part about it is that 30 Seconds to Mars, the other band members, are not part of the cult. They just live there, and they're like, I guess we do this concert every day, but they're like not part of Jared Leto's cult. But Jared Leto has openly come out on Twitter and is like, yeah, it's a cult.
I mean, why hide a cult? If you're gonna do it, guys, this is where I think most cults go wrong.
Oh, sure, with the secrecy?
With the secrecy. You don't need
it makes him feel cool.
Well, there's plenty of secrecy and stuff that goes on. Like, one, how did Jared Leto build a... There's so many questions. How did he build
He took all the 30 Seconds to Mars fans and said, come live with me on this island.
Okay, so
and they just have they have one-on-one time with the cult leader, which means he's definitely boning with them. And then there's like this whole thing. Then they go to a cool 30 Seconds to Mars concert.
Okay, so they get to bone a rock star and then have a free concert living on an island, and their only stipulation is to worship Jared Leto.
I didn't say they're mad about it.
I mean, really though,
this just said WarBeauty runs away to join a cult.
Hey guys, this has been really fun, but I've clearly been living my life all wrong. It's just haven't been doing it right at all.
Yeah, I mean that's how he's doing it.
I mean, good for him though.
Yeah, good for them.
Exactly. They're all getting laid by a rock star, and they get to see 30 Seconds to Mars all the time. What if that's the only music they can listen to? Ooh.
It is, though.
Oh, see, my God.
But I love that 30 Seconds to Mars is not part of the cult.
I like how they just enable this, though.
I know.
So to them, Jared Leto would be a sacred person.
Right. Let's steer back on track. This is not a 30 Seconds to Mars episode.
Although we will be doing an episode in the future on cults, so stay tuned.
Yeah, we will. And we're talking about Jared Leto.
Because we're really going to get into the cults. But sacred people that are not Jared Leto. There is, so in the Mormon church...
Okay.
There is the head of the church, and he is the president of the church, but he's also... he's the prophet, and he has 12 apostles.
Oh, okay.
The Mormon church actually does keep the same church organization as Jesus did. So Jesus and his 12 apostles. Mormon church keeps the same thing. And here's interesting. So you guys, hey, hot WarBeauty fact. I actually grew up Mormon.
Yes, you did.
And I'm going to set the record straight here. I'm very glad I grew up Mormon, and I'm very thankful to the LDS church for my upbringing and for my religious experience. I actually have no animosity towards the Mormon church whatsoever.
I'm thankful for that past as well, because you are the most knowledgeable person of so many different types of religions.
And that really comes down to the Mormon church enabled me to ask those questions and to be a spiritual seeker at the end of the day. So I want everyone listening to know I actually don't hold any animosity in a single part of my body for the Mormon church. I don't necessarily agree with all of their decisions, and I think where they went wrong was that they did educate their flock of sheep, basically, and they made them religiously aware. So when they started asking questions, there are things I think the church does that are not in line with church teachings.
Do you think it's ironic that we went from talking about cults to the Mormon church, which I personally consider a cult?
Okay, so I actually had to deal with this argument a lot growing up, because if you're going to call the Mormon church a cult, then literally every major religion is also a cult.
Yes.
Yes, that's not false. That is not incorrect. When you look at and we'll go into this in the cult episode, but that's actually not incorrect, but it's not correct in the sense of the way people consider cult. The Mormon church is just a religion. It is literally no different than Catholicism with the exception of its age.
I gotcha.
At this point. And apparently they're their own ethno-religious
Oh, good for them.
Right. So, because I am still technically Mormon, my records are still with the church, I'm technically ethno-religiously Mormon.
Oh, good for you.
Which really cracks me up. But okay.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I'm also proud.
So, we should steer away from cults for a second.
Well, but no, so the church's name is where I was getting at. It's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
So every practitioner and follower in this church is considered a saint.
Oh,
because
wow.
It is
what?
Latter-day Saints.
Okay.
So saints in the sense that everybody is a virtuous, good, and holy person. And, you know, all the stereotypes about Mormons of how they're just so virtuous and good and wholesome. Well, that's what the church tries to foster. So that is how people are considered, is everyone is a saint. Which is really interesting. So we're gonna get into this. We're talking about holy and sacred people.
Yeah, of course.
So what's interesting about that metaphysically is that the Mormon church is actually teaching people that you are a direct representation and reflection of divinity and of God. Therefore, you, as a person, are a saint. Now, we also learned that mortals are flawed. So mankind is a flawed being, it's a flawed creature. So it's interesting that we are called Latter-day Saints because you're in a constant strive to basically perfect yourself to the best you can in mortal form so that you can ascend to godhood in death.
Oh my god, I understand you so much better now. Oh my god, that makes so much sense. Here's something y'all don't know about WarBeauty, is that she's always talking about ascension and how she will ascend, and now I understand why. That's how you were raised and trained.
Thank you. Trained. I will ascend. Listen, I don't need this kind of negativity in my ascension path, okay?
So, when it comes down to it, it really is all just opinion, huh?
Yeah, really. It really is just opinion. Because at the end of the day, everybody is birthed.
Not me.
Okay.
I was hatched.
Okay. It's like she took the notes and I was like, everyone is birthed, and she just wiped the notes right off the desk and just said, nope. You're wrong. So, but at the end of the day, think about it. Everybody comes out of a woman's body.
Sure.
With the exception, of course, now I'm going to get people, no, in modern day, they can be born in petri dishes. Okay, that's modern day, thank you. But essentially, you're still in a womb in those
You still
things.
have to have the parts and pieces.
Right. So, everybody is born the same.
Sure.
There are, of course, genetic differences between people. There are some variances, and some people have advantages over others. Some people are born with more sensitivity than others. Everybody starts kind of on the same foot in terms of being considered a sacred person. Nobody is born with a distinct advantage over one another when it comes to this. So we're all birthed the same, and there's no one that has a distinct advantage over the other person when it comes to being a holy person. So it really is a matter of opinion what makes someone holy. And typically,
well, and it's also a matter of, if we were all at the same level when we start out, then it's a matter of what you do with it.
That's where, yeah, exactly. That's where I was going with it, is typically it's someone who has lived a holy or virtuous or exceptionally good life. Or someone with a sick cult following.
Jared Leto.
I wish that was me. Wish I had a sick cult following.
We'll get you there one day.
I don't have time for that, honestly. I'm trying to ascend, and my ascension does not include managing a cult.
Apparently he got tired of being a super cool rock star and decided to just have a very small group of people that he has sex with regularly and then just gets to jam with his band. Not a bad life.
Living the dream. Seriously, you just see people out here living your dream, and you're like, wow. Okay.
Does it hurt?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I'm really jealous.
Alright, that's okay.
Kenny Chesney has an island, too.
Yeah. But Kenny Chesney was the first concert I ever saw. When I was like, okay, I grew up in Mississippi. He's one of the 4 people that actually tour in Mississippi. I was extremely young. I was brought along with my parents when they went. So anyway, this has been Midnight Curiosities. Join us next week as we discover more about the magical world that we live in and possibly cults. Midnight Curiosities is hosted by One Eye Oddities, a new way to see magic. I'm Curator Raquel.
And I'm Curator WarBeauty.
And as always,
become an oddity.